So if a 2-ton load were to drop, there'd be no way people would get off site alive.
The health and safety from compliance perspective the law came about 1974 around.
That's right.
How has it evolved now?
I think everything that's set out to companies and businesses for compliance is based on things that have happened to people. So if accidents get reported, the HSE learn from that, the government learn from that.
What impact does that sort of incident make on the company itself from a disaster recovery perspective, but also to the company owners or directors? Is there a personal liability to that?
Yeah, you've got to be able to prove that you've communicated safe working systems with those staff.
Yeah.
And obviously, if things do happen when they've got those safe systems of work in place, they'll learn from it if they haven't covered it correctly. But the whole point is that when businesses and business owners put that in place, they communicate, they coordinate with their employees, the employees give them feedback, everybody works together, because ultimately we want to go home at the end of the night, right?
Welcome to Pratigya, podcast hosted by Pratigya. Right, I've got Debbie here. Health and safety is really, really boring. So we have heard. I've got Debbie, who is a health and safety consultant. Debbie, who are you? Tell us.
I'm Debbie. I got into health and safety consultancy back in 2000, following being hit by a car and being left with a paralysed arm, and being resuscitated by a policewoman. It led me into a different direction for work. And, like most people will when something like that happens, I set a business up, a health and safety and first aid training and development business up. And here I am today.
Yeah. Debbie, tell us something more about, your journey. That's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it?
It is.
Tell us your story.
So I got hit by a car, and as a result of that, I was left with a paralysed arm, and had been through all kinds of emotional journeys, as I think people with disabilities do. Some are born with disabilities, and some get disabilities from accidents. And really, I'm passionate about living life purely based on you get one chance now, I know. And, as a result of that, I sometimes probably have a little bit of a carefree attitude. I'm not a typical health and safety person per se.
So I've heard you're a modern one.
A modern one, thank you. And really, it's just about being practical with health and safety. I think I set it up because one of the things I mentioned was that I was resuscitated.
Yeah.
So first aid is really important, and knowing how important that is, and can be to others as well. And over the last 26 years, since I set the business up, which is field training services, the first aid training we've delivered has helped many. And, some that have written to us to let us know what a difference it's made, how one woman who really wasn't certain about coming along on training, 2 weeks later, her husband had a major heart attack at home and she saved his life. And that's from the confidence she learned from the first aid training, which is always good. But for me, I was sort of had a bit of an attitude when I nearly died, and wanted to change things. And one of those things was back then, health and safety, when consultants used to go into workplaces, they used to tut if people didn't have it right. And I'm thinking, come on, let's modernise this situation. Change is not going to happen unless we look at it more practically and it fits in with everyone's working day. So that's how, my attitude towards health and safety took fold.
So the health and safety from compliance perspective the law came about 1974 around.
That's right.
How has it evolved now?
I think everything that's set out to companies and businesses for compliance is based on things that have happened to people. So if accidents get reported, The HSC learn from that. The government learn from that. Everything goes through Parliament to be approved.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the Health and Safety at Work, etc. Act, 1974. I'm really not.
I think I ChatGPT.
Yeah, very well done to you on that. Done your homework. But I'm not really. Yes, the regulations are there. They're there for us for compliance. We've got to make sure that we're adhering to them. We have the Health and Safety Executive there for guidance, which is great, but it's about practical implementation in your workplace to make the risk as low as possible when people are working.
What is the most common type of incident you see on offices or on field?
I think it's probably manual handling injuries, people lifting the wrong way or doing, things that are not helping them and not going to help them in the long run. Potentially working at height and not working safely.
What impact does that sort of incident make on the company itself from a disaster recovery perspective, but also to the company owners or directors? Is there a personal liability to that? Yeah,
of course. I mean, when you've got 5 or more staff or people working for you at any one time, you've got to formalise your health and safety procedures. Okay, you've got to be able to prove that you've communicated safe working systems with those staff. And obviously, if things do happen when they've got those safe systems of work in place, they'll learn from it if they haven't covered it correctly. But the whole point is that when businesses and business owners put that in place, they communicate, they coordinate with their employees, the employees give them feedback, everybody works together, because ultimately we want to go home at the end of the night, right? Well, some of us might not want to. If it used to be between me and my husband that whoever got home first cooked the dinner.
Oh, God.
So, I'm quite happy to delay that a little bit. But with the directors' responsibilities, there's obviously the corporate manslaughter aspect of it. So if there's a fatality at work, that's going to obviously be investigated, but it has a knock-on effect to everybody. If the company director hasn't managed it properly, they may not be insured. Or, they'll have insurance, but it might not cover them. And therefore it comes down to a civil matter then. And that affects the livelihood of the director, the family, friends, the whole lot.
It's quite scary.
Yeah. But the whole important thing of this is that they've got to look at it practically, okay? So the Health and Safety Executives say, look at it as to be reasonably practicable. So you've got to look at it so that it fits in, that it is reasonable how you're managing it. We do obviously have consultants that probably go over the top sometimes, and you might query, well, is it over the top if it's keeping people safe? Yes, but sometimes you're preventing people from getting on. Yes, they've got to work safely, but it's just finding the most reasonably practicable way of working. So that's what people got to remember. It's getting the balance,
isn't it?
And covering yourselves. Everyone's got to be covered,
Yeah. Tell me one of the most scary case that you've seen on health and safety in your 40-odd career.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, 40.
Yeah, thanks.
20 years on. You know what I meant to say there.
The scariest thing, I think, one of the greatest is probably, I worked for a top 100 FTSE company. I made a cold call to them. I didn't really understand what it was that was being spoken about in the meeting. I took a senior consultant with me at the time. And we spent 4 years working with this company that did construction. We're in the oil industry. They had one of the biggest construction sites in the UK. So we gave an awareness to their directors and looked at their health and safety systems. And then when we were on site one day for site managers' awareness, we just asked the question of how the guy in the cab of the crane was communicating with those out on the site, to which they said, we've got no communication. So if a 2-ton load were to drop, there'd be no way people would get off site alive. So at the end of the day, we left that site for them to think about the communication. The cab driver then had a radio. 2 weeks later, the brakes failed on the crane, the load dropped, and everyone got off site safely. So that's a big achievement, just to give that little bit of an awareness. And I mentioned earlier about the lady who didn't want to come along to the first aid training course, and then actually saved her husband's life. So that's great. And then another company that had an incident on a site, and sadly the first aiders weren't really comfortable and confident in carrying out first aid on somebody who a load had dropped and they lost a leg. And, you know, as a result of the company's guys that came along at the time on a half-day first aid awareness course, they saved their colleague's life. And that was when, at the time, the fire brigade turned up and they were just going to remove this bit of equipment from where it had severed the guy's leg. And they stopped that from happening. They saved his life.
Yeah. We see real sort of, like, it makes the news as well, doesn't it, sometimes? Do you find, after so many incidents that come about happen every day, do you think, especially locally here, the businesses are more open to the health and safety side of things, or do they still have that sort of attitude where, you know, oh, health and safety again sort of attitude? Because I sometimes, to be honest with you, when I'm working in the kitchen cutting, I sometimes ignore. I might cut my finger, and it's about business there. Do you find that sort of attitude, or is it generally, is there seriousness?
Yeah, I think there's a mixture, actually, still.
Yeah.
So when I first set the company up, it was probably 80-20, and that was 80% of businesses did anything based on the fact that an accident had happened.
Yeah.
But then it converted, it turned around, and 80% were roughly more proactive in managing it.
Yeah.
And I think now it's sort of sliding back a little bit with the smaller companies. And they're sort of know they have to do something, not necessarily sure what they need to do. I'm happy to help with that, by the way.
Yeah.
And, you know, need any guidance, just contact me. But I think now the business owners just need to be aware that if they're asking their office manager, who may not be qualified, to sort their health and safety out, or, you know, one of the directors is trying to do it, you know, we can just give them some guidance on where to start. Yeah. That's not a problem. Don't sort of pass it to somebody who's not competent to do it. So, you know, one of the things that we're currently looking at is an app for office health and safety management, so people can follow the steps, create their own health and safety management pack, and then potentially at the end, if they need a quality check, we can then do it. So it's just about not being on your own doing those things. I mean, sometimes, you know, you can go online, look, spend the time doing it, not be assured that actually you've got it right.
Yeah.
And it could be more cost effective just to come to somebody like Field Training Services just to help. So it's definitely worth considering for those companies. I mean, we're not just providing SMEs, you know, we've helped some major companies, and, you know, everything's the same. It's just about the proportion and practicalities depending on the roles within the company, what the work type is that they're providing. You know, it's just about risk managing.
Can we have too much of safety?
Yeah, I think sometimes there can be too much.
Yeah.
You know, people talk about the red tape all the time.
Yeah.
And it's just about being practical. I think what business owners need to ask themselves is what they've got in place. If something were to happen, can they prove that they've communicated it with their staff? And if they can, and the systems they've got in place are right, and it reduces the risk to as low as possible, then fine.
Yeah.
But if they haven't, then they need to start thinking a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Okay, let's go back to the modernization topic. I was speaking to one of the person who's doing, someone locally who does scaffolding.
Yeah.
And there's that element of, I think that particular sector, the trade sector, is quite heavy on health and safety, and often is freelance, right? How do we manage health and safety in case of freelancers working? And tell us about your experience there.
Okay, well, we do a lot of trades, contractors. So for the developers, we can help manage the contractors.
Yeah.
For the contractors, we can help them with their health and safety documents and guide them as to what they need to be doing. We get a lot of work like that. And if I'm honest, that's probably one of my biggest breakthroughs in my career, is that once we started working with trades and other trades started recommending us, we knew we were going to be okay.
Yeah.
I think with contractors, it's very difficult. I mean, we work with roofers and scaffolders.
Specifically freelancers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's a subcontract management kind of thing. So you just still need to make sure that it's all okay.
Where does the responsibility fall in the chain of that contract, in the contract chain?
So say, for example, you're a developer and you're appointing a contractor. The developer needs to check that contractor's health and safety is correct and they'll comply with site rules, site management. And they approve that contractor's health and safety documentation and the way they're going to manage the job safely.
Yeah.
I think there's a shortfall out there with those contractors then bringing subcontractors in. They don't always vet and approve them properly. We do assist with that and help and guide those that we work with. But we also have the aspect where people might appoint subcontractors to come and do some work and think, oh, they're only a one-man band, so we don't need to ask them for their documents. And that one-man band won't provide it.
That's what I was getting at.
but if there is an incident that happens, then that subcontractor, the contractor that's using them, and the client can all be liable for
and
an
the client as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. And what about the office side of things? So that's trades, right? The remote work scenarios. How's that changed?
It's okay. One of the biggest things I think about is management of people in a building. So if they're hot desking or visiting numerous facilities, the fire management, the first aid. It's just about signing in and out. Get your fire risk assessment in place and knowing that you're managing that correctly. Making sure there's first aid to cover. That's important as well. There's certain requirements that people have got to follow. And also then you also have a lot of lone working going on. So you need to risk assess to make sure that, an employer has a duty of care when people are working for them, if they're out and about, to make sure they're okay. Yeah. So that's, as important. But yeah, it's all down to risk assessing. Is what's in place for them? Do you know that they're okay? Especially when we have lots of things happening all the time. It's just understanding that, you're in control. You can communicate with them.
Yeah.
It's a bit like driving. There's a lot of driving that happens. People need to make sure they're risk managing that properly. Yeah. A lot of things that we find is that sometimes people using their own vehicles for work, the employer doesn't always check that they've got business cover for their insurance. There's little things that, just need to be considered to cover them.
Yeah.
So if they were using their own vehicle, for example, they might not be insured. And then if anything were to happen, it's all... So there's some practicalities that we just help them with that, might just take a few seconds for us to let them know to consider.
And do you think the law is coping with the change, the pattern of how we work? Do you think it's up there? Because there's a big thing about Europe, isn't it? Compliance is too heavy. Yes, there's a risk management side to it. Yeah. And do you think the compliance is sort of open to the risk management? I mean, it'll be too loose, but is it? I think the question I'm trying to ask is it coping with the change, the market change? Yeah,
I think there's a lot of consultants that I work with that deal with sustainability, continuity, world experts that I work with. And we always revert back to the UK legislation. Yeah. Because we're so stringent and we look at the records in the UK versus other countries. And, we're a pretty good country, for compliance and reducing the injuries and accidents that happen compared to other countries. So, I think it's good, but you still always need to consider the way, that you're managing things and finding the best practical solution for it. I mean, the biggest challenge is roofers, because the roofers go, well, we do it this way and it's unsafe to do it that way. And, you know, we're more restricted in the way that the HSC is saying we've got to do it and stuff. But I just say, what way do you need to do it to be covered by your insurance? And that's what we need to be looking at, and reducing the risk of you falling or, you know, anything happening there.
Yeah.
So be practical about it.
If there were one thing that you could tell me, just one thing, as I've got business, one thing you could tell me, the topmost, that would significantly reduce or mitigate my risk of health and safety.
Just, if you don't know it, ask somebody that does.
No assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, even as a consultant, you know, I know out there are some consultants that will take on everything. I won't take on everything. If I don't know it, I've not got a skill set in it, I'm not experienced in it or competent,
Yeah.
I will just bring somebody else in that is. You know, just because I'm a health and safety consultant doesn't mean I know every area.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's as important to me and to my clients.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, okay, so let me come out of health and safety for a bit, and then I want to understand you as a person.
Yeah.
Earlier, off air, when we were getting ready and miking up, you said your marketing strategy is helping other people, and I saved this question.
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
How? I mean, I know your community. You're very active in the community, and how is that your strategy for?
I just think if, you know, we spend a lot of time at work, and everyone talks about that work-life balance.
Yeah.
And I think it's important that whatever you do in life, you've got to enjoy it. You've got to have that compassion, that belief. You know, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. I mean, if you don't, then why bother? You know, I know this is something actually that I thought about a lot over the years, because within schools, you get children leaving school and they're wondering what direction they're going to take themselves in. You've got some that say, I'm going to be a nurse because I like helping people. And then you've got others that say, where can I earn the most money? And that's what I'm going to do. And I think from my experience, I mean, there's a mixture of feedback from people I know. Some can retire earlier than others because they've chosen that money thing, but not necessarily, you know, feel the emotions in life that others could do if they were really enjoying things. I think it was Steve Jobs that, you know, when he was passing, he said that, you know, for Microsoft, he just wished that he spent more time with his family. You know, that's what would have been more important to him, that he realises now. And I think that's just to get that mixture going on.
Yeah. It's tough, isn't it? In a sense, the work-life balance itself is, and then you've got a teenager.
Well, she's 12.
Well,
we call them queenagers.
And then balancing your motherhood and then consultant. I've seen you very, very busy. And then you've got your, you know, be the wifey and all of that. It's quite difficult.
Dog mum.
Rugby
mum.
Yes, yes. How do you balance all of that? And I know your disability, you used to be right-handed.
Yeah.
So I see you as
I used to be left-handed.
You used to be left-handed and you're right-handed now. So I've seen you adapt with the life. And is there a particular thing that you want to share that you know, that might other people, disabled business owners, let's put it specifically, might help them?
I think my thing has always been, what can I do, rather than I can't do something.
Yeah.
And then, do I want to do it? That's the other thing. I mean, I did buy a tricycle because my husband and daughter like going out riding.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, okay, I'm going to do that, make an effort, do that. I went out on it twice. I kept forgetting that the wheel in the back was like closer to the curb. And so I found it was much better if I'd been out and had to like Bacardi and Coke or something. It was a much better balance. But I never enjoyed it. And it was just about pleasing some others.
Yeah.
You know, sorry. But yeah, so that's just been sitting there now in my garden undercover for a little while.
Yeah.
So I think just, you know, everyone just needs to enjoy doing what they like, and that will see them through in life. But ultimately, having a disability means that 24/7 I get pain. Distraction manages that pain. That's why I think I keep myself busy. To be honest, you know, we mentioned about yoga earlier, didn't we? I think that would probably help really if I did that. You know, on the lower level to begin with.
Oh God.
But yeah, I just how has it helped me? I think it made me stop and realise everything that I had in my life. More than anything.
There was a sudden pause.
I think it was a case of just going, oh my God, this is life. And I'm so grateful to everyone that I've had surrounding me, because everyone carried on treating me as normal. Not that they shouldn't, but you know, you feel different when you get a disability. You don't feel whole. And I think, you know, I had great support around me. And I think all the time, if you've got other people believing in you, then why are you not believing in you? Because other people are, and you know, it becomes this sort of like self-demon, if you like. And now, obviously, I've got my daughter. It's not queenager, it's treenager, isn't it? I
have no idea what you're talking about.
I've got my daughter who's just, you know, helps me without even being asked. She doesn't see anything different, and that's what I want. I want her to see that everyone should be inclusive. It's just how people manage things differently. Yeah. And I think if I just get that in my life, so she can say, everyone just get on with it. Well, it's down to how you look at it, isn't it? Mm. If she's got that attitude, then yeah, I'm happy with that.
Super. Right, so if you need anything, call Debbie on health and safety. Right.
Thank you very much.
Yep. So thank you so much, Debbie,
I appreciate it
for being here and having, you know, taking this time out to have this conversation with me.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time.